Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Buckets. Olivia Rodrigo's new album fucking slaps, and I just thought you should know that. I just pronounced her last name wrong, but whatever. Go check out that album. Anyways, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and drop a like. As I mentioned in yesterday's post-game recap, I decided I'm going to be doing these videos in two parts pretty much every day. Outside of, like, I think Monday there's only 2 games or something like that, so when that happens I'm not going to be doing parts, but for the days that are really crowded playoff game-wise, I'm going to be doing 2 videos a day, and the first one I'm doing is covering entirely Lakers versus Suns, because this is maybe the most interesting matchup of the first round, because of course the Lakers are a contender, but they have a whole lot of shit going on, and the Suns are a very good team at the same time. It's a very just interesting matchup, and the Suns walk away from game 1 winning rather convincingly. The score might not make it seem like it, but this really felt like pretty much a blowout, not necessarily like the Lakers weren't doing anything right, but just that the Suns had control of this one all the way through. So I was taking some notes during the game. Of course, the title of this video is probably going to be Suns win game 1 plus Andre Drummond sucks. I mentioned in my video previewing the Suns versus Lakers matchup that Andre Drummond is not, like, playable in this series, nor is Marc Gasol, by the way. At the very least, offensively, Marc Gasol brings more than Andre Drummond. But he played terrible in this one. I'm actually curious how many minutes he actually played. I will say he probably had a good box score, and people are going to look at that and say, well, that means Drummond had a good game, but he was just pitiful defensively. He had 12 and 9 on 5 for 7 shooting. Like, that's good numbers, but he was just getting turned around in the pick and roll as I expected, even despite Chris Paul being injured and not being as good, even not his passes not necessarily being as on target as they normally are. He ended up playing only 19 minutes, but really it should have been 0. And I think by the time we're on the final games of this series, he's going to play like 3 minutes a pop. And they were going to AD at center in the critical moments. Also has to be said, AD not good in this one. LeBron James not as aggressive as you'd maybe like him to be. But AD actually had Jay Crowder on him for a lot of this game. And I mentioned that I thought that was a possibility that they would go to Crowder, because Crowder, even though he's like 6'6", he's well built and he plays bigger than he is. And he's good at just defending post players. He did the same shit against Giannis last year with the Heat when they did the wall defense, and he's doing the same thing against AD. And at least AD has a counter to that, which is his mid-range game, but it wasn't really working that much today. And even then, if you have a 6'6" guy on you, it'd be nice if you could just push him into the basket rather than doing a fadeaway, but that's not AD's game, really. And they actually got away with that matchup, and then it was even better when Ayton was on him for the most part. Like, AD had a couple of opportunities in the paint, and Ayton did a good enough job keeping pressure on AD. Speaking of Ayton, offensively, he had a hell of a game. 21 points, 16 rebounds, 10 for 11 from the field. He had a one possession that really annoyed me where Crowder passed it to him, and he was completely open under the basket. And then he did like a spin and a dribble, like he was trying to do a post move when he didn't have a defender on him. And then before he had a chance to lay it up, help came and he fumbled the ball to a guy in the corner. Yeah, that was really dumb. But other than that and like dropping a pass here or there, he pretty much played a flawless game. Some offensive rebounds here or there. Not even here or there. Goddamn, he had 8 of the fucking things. I didn't realize he did that well on the offensive glass. So that's something. I know he had a couple of tip-ins. Pick and roll, like I mentioned, just either Drummond was stepping up and that was giving Ayton the lane, or he was leaning back and that was giving Chris, or really more so Devin Booker in this game, open looks. Speaking of Devin Booker, phenomenal playoff debut from Devin Booker. 34 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 50% from the field. That's just absolutely fantastic. He also had 6 turnovers, but I'm not too mad at him for that because he was hitting big shot after big shot and difficult shot, contested shot, multiple contested mid-range shots in this one. He started off the game with, I think, a pair of threes that really got the momentum going for them. Mikal Bridges, I have to mention, he, like, box score wise, not going to stand out, but he was just really good defensively and hit some big shots as well. And then, like, back to the Lakers side of things, I think just cutting out Andre Drummond minutes as well as like LeBron just being more aggressive. Like LeBron has to shoot more than 13 shots, and of those 13 shots, it can't be 7 3-pointers. Like he was just not putting pressure on the Suns defense at all. Speaking of putting pressure on the defense, I mentioned as well in that series preview that when the Suns go small and they put Dario Saric at center, they really need to have AD in the game to punish that. They didn't. Anytime Saric was on the floor, AD was not. It seemed like the rotations just went that way. I understand, like, if AD just played 12 minutes, you don't want to sub him in just to take advantage of Saric, but maybe try and, like, I don't know, a million IQ and, like, gauge when Saric is going to get in the game to fuck around with that matchup. I don't know. It's a difficult line to walk because you don't want to overplay a guy, but you also don't want to... You also don't want to not take advantage of matchups when you have them. Saric played decent in his time, got a charge and all that. But yeah. Then I also have to mention briefly the little kerfuffle that happened on the floor. LeBron misses a free throw. Chris Paul goes to box him out, and LeBron falls over, hits his shoulder. There were people joking on Twitter, like after the eye thing, anytime LeBron is injured now, they're just going to make a joke about it. Like they were saying LeBron felt like he had 3 shoulders because he said when he shot that shot against the Warriors, he had 3, he saw 3 different baskets. I thought the injury was valid. Like he landed on the shoulder pretty rough. But he is a little bit of a drama queen, which is fine. I don't care. But people were, of course, clowning on him as you would expect. But after that, I don't know what happened, but Caruso got in Cameron Payne's face, and then Montrezl Harrell ran over, I think, to try and break up the fight, but he accidentally just didn't slow his momentum, so he just slammed into Cameron Payne, and then he immediately, like, as he hit him, held on to him so he wouldn't fall over. It was just very weird. And then after all of this, Cameron Payne got thrown out. Like, at least to me, it seemed like Caruso initiated the argument, but then Cameron Payne is the one that gets thrown out after also accidentally, but still a little bit being tackled by Montrezl Harrell. Like, I guess Cameron Payne maybe said something to the ref or something that got him thrown out, but otherwise, like, just looking at the altercation purely from the camera, I don't understand why Cameron Payne got thrown out of the game. Didn't end up mattering. The whole thing seems stupid to me. I don't know why there was a fight between Caruso and Cameron Payne. It just seemed dumb. Harrell accidentally running into him at full speed. It was just kind of a clusterfuck. Also, I do kind of feel like I'm mentioning the minutes disparity. I can't talk. LeBron played 36 minutes. AD plays 38. Meanwhile, Booker played 45, and Bridges played 40, and Chris Paul, who got injured on his shoulder, which was very scary when it happened because it looked like that was like a really bad injury, and I'm glad it didn't end up being that. I was like, I'm not a Suns fan. I'm not even a big Chris Paul fan, but I was like ready to jump off a bridge. Like, Chris Paul does not deserve this to happen a fucking again. He didn't get hurt though, or he did, but it wasn't like series ending. But like he plays as many minutes as LeBron in this one, I feel like that's kind of questionable. Now I understand maybe you want to give LeBron a little bit of a break, but like don't put yourself in a deficit right now just because you're trying to go easy, like easing LeBron into things. And this is exactly what I talked about in my series preview and what I've been talking about pretty much ever since really the Lakers injuries happened. I was concerned about this team going into the playoffs because they were not looking good going into the playoffs. That's the biggest concern, is that you're starting off the playoffs kind of limping, and you have to get back into stride in games that really fucking matter. Like, you can't tiptoe around shit. You can't play LeBron James 36 minutes in this game, but because of all of the shit that you had go on in the playoffs, or not in the playoffs, at the end of the regular season, the amount of injuries you had, the fact that you have no chemistry built up, and like you're trying to get all your pieces together, but oh fuck, the playoffs are happening now. Like, the fact that you have all that going on, and you kind of have to give LeBron a break, because he's fucking 36 and he's dealt with some injuries here or there. He's been injured most of the season. AD's been injured most of the season, and you don't have your chemistry built. It makes sense to ease players in when it's the end of the regular season, but you're in a playoff matchup right now that is very well possible to lose. And that's why I was like, the Lakers are not in a good position. I still have them coming out of the West. That's my pick. I still have them winning this series, but there is reason to be concerned. I tweeted earlier, like, I have the Lakers winning this series, but if you think this is going to be a cakewalk, then you don't know anything about this Phoenix Suns team, because playoff Devin Booker looks like it's going to be a thing. This is his first time in the playoffs. He immediately drops 34, 7, and 8. Chris Paul hopefully performs better next game. When he was just injured this one, so his mid-range pull-up looked awkward. His passes were off because he was throwing it with his right arm, and it was his right shoulder that was fucked up. But DeAndre Ayton is going to continue to dominate if you keep letting him just run pick and roll versus Andre Drummond. It's just overall, like, this team will take advantage of you fucking up, and that's what's scary for the Lakers right now. And this is why I was like, I don't understand why the Clippers are dodging the Lakers in round one. I suppose maybe their hope is the Suns can just take them out for them, but like, if it's inevitable that you face the Lakers, which maybe it's not, but if it ends up being that, I would have much rather faced the Lakers in the first round than the conference finals, because by the time the conference finals come around, their chemistry is going to be perfect. So you could have faced the Lakers while they were weak, which they very clearly established they are right in this game, but instead you choose to face the Mavericks, who beat you in game one. So that's a whole nother conversation. I should mention real quick, I watched the last 5 minutes of Wizards versus Sixers. I wasn't very interested in this series, really. I was like, I'm sure the Wizards will take a game or two, but ultimately I think the Sixers are going to win. It was a close game in the last 5 minutes, which is why I decided to watch in the first place. But it really was just, as soon as I started watching the game, the Sixers kind of took care of business. Seth Curry backdoor cut, Danny Green 3, 2 Joel Embiid face-up mid-range shots. Robin Lopez did a post-up that was called for a travel. Apparently Tobias Harris, 37 points. He clearly had a good-ass performance. And I look at the minutes here, and I see that Bertans got 28 minutes, and I'm like, maybe I would just rather have a lot more Rui Hachimura minutes than that. And he did not foul out like last time when I complained about his minutes, and I just completely missed that. But yeah, another thing that I just had observed for that was like how unfair defensively this team can be, because Ben Simmons was guarding Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal had a good game, but like late game, it was Bradley Beal being guarded by Ben Simmons, and then as soon as he got by Ben Simmons off of a screen, he immediately ran into Joel Embiid, who swatted it out of bounds. Like, that's a difficult defense to go against, especially if you're a guard, because their whole thing is about size, and they ain't got the size. So yeah, that was my analysis of the last 5 minutes of this game. I'm not gonna box score watch and be like, oh, Ben Simmons 3 for 9, but also 15 assists. Whatever. I don't fucking know. So yeah, that was that game and the Lakers Suns game. I'm probably gonna make a main channel video about the adjustments that the Lakers need to make, although I've definitely hinted at them before already. But yeah, basically just more AD at center and no more Drummond. And stop playing with your food. Not that the Suns are food. Really, that's the thing, is that they're playing with their food, but it's not actually fucking food. You're playing with, I don't know, playing with something you can't eat. This is a stupid fucking metaphor. I don't know. Anyways, that's it. Look forward to my coverage of Hawks versus Knicks and Grizzlies versus Jazz, which might actually be interesting because Donovan Mitchell is not playing game one. But yeah, that was this game. Goodbye.